So once it's all gone to the Åkerhof, do they melt these? So to make new glass, would they melt the glass and then
Yes.
create it into new one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But that energy that's required to melt the glass is far less than is required to actually make glass in the first place.
Mhm.
Yeah. So that's why in aluminium's the best example of that. The energy required to recycle aluminium is it's something like 90% less than to make the aluminium in the first place.
Mhm. When we talk about recycling as a whole, many people do recycle here in Switzerland, but where does it all go? So you talked about how it gets burnt down, but when I was watching videos, most of it was just ending up on landfills or even in the sea. So do you know if they do that in Switzerland?
Well, in Switzerland, there are no landfills.
Okay.
They had a federal law that made landfills finish. There are no more landfills. And in fact, they have what's called, as far as I'm aware, something called now landfill mining. So there were landfills, and they're going back and trying to clean them up and recycle and reclaim materials in those landfills. So at the moment, the policy in Switzerland is no landfills. They have policies to try and reduce use. That's the Abfallsack that you pay a small amount for per sack that you have to put any garbage into. So garbage gets incinerated. It's attached to a paper factory, and so they use the energy from the incinerator to power the factory and provide warm water for local housing. So in Switzerland, it is really integrated. Yeah. It's very advanced compared to the videos you've been watching, where in some countries they have, in the UK they still have large landfills, in America large landfills. In less developed countries they have very unorganised landfills. And that's how it gets into the oceans. It can get into the oceans just by, if you're out and you drop a piece of litter,
yeah,
it blows away, it blows into a river, then it ends up in the oceans.
Mm-hmm. So what problems could occur if no one recycled?
Well, we'd end up having more waste than we have humans, wouldn't we? Because no one would get rid of it. We'd just be sitting in one of those big heaps of rubbish somewhere. Be very nasty. And would run out of resources.
Yeah, that's true. And there's also been articles saying 2015 is the year to actually change, because otherwise our Earth will be in complete bad shape for future generations. So.
Yeah, it is. It's really important, and the decisions that politicians make in Paris in December this year, in 2015, are going to either say, yes, we're going to go to a decarbonised society by 2050, possibly 2100, or no, we're committing our planet to rising temperatures by 4 degrees or more.
Yeah.
And that's going to, really change what life is like.
Because that also higher the sea levels, and eventually a lot of lower down places will be underwater, which is a really
but if you think about, people don't think about it here, but in Switzerland, a lot of the water that you rely upon is from glacier meltwater.
Yeah.
And one of the places that gets most affected by rising temperatures are mountains. There's an although we talk about 2-degree rise in temperatures globally, what actually happens is that some places get warmer, much more than 2 degrees, and others don't change much. In Switzerland, the mountains get much warmer, and so there's less snow, so there's less glaciers, so there's less rainwater. So it could mean that in 30 years' time, in Switzerland, people are having to be very careful about water resources. It could mean that you're getting increased pests moving north from the equator, so more malaria carrying mosquitoes, for example. You'll have a loss of snow sports in Switzerland, which could have a massive impact on the local economy. Lots of things closer to home that have big impacts.
Do you think there is a solution to plastic production and how can people reduce their carbon footprint?
Plastic production, I think that there's got to be massive pressure on businesses to look at plastic production and to change the technology. I think that a lot of plastic production is incredibly wasteful. It's probably not possible to reduce it completely, but you can reduce the life cycle of plastic so that it's actually recyclable. Maybe there should be a law that says that anything that's put into the human cycle should be in a cycle, that it's a closed loop.
Mm-hmm.
But Ellen MacArthur is a big proponent of this idea that we look for closed loops in how we produce things. And carbon footprinting, maybe we've got to travel less.